This conference will now be recorded.
All right, hello everybody. So I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we move into our homework tonight. I wanted to say everything has been graded now in the grade book. I'm sorry that it was a little late, although most of you might say it wasn't that late or I didn't even notice because your other teachers don't grade as fast as I do. But for me, it was very late, and especially because this class builds on itself. And so let's say if the week 3 homework was needing correction in any size of the wall, I know how frustrating that would be to continue on in that work and not have it graded and then have to fix it. So I apologize for that. It's all been corrected. Take note of the things that I've needed you to correct. Because of that inability to grade, I was very kind in the way that I did grade this past 2 weeks. So like whatever I've graded towards this week and then the week before in 3, I only did -2. So like let's say this block was way out here and you didn't place it, I would count that as one mistake because the window's not in place. Or if this one was drawn ugly, or if this one wasn't on the right layer, I'll then do a screenshot. So some of you, if I did a screenshot, and I'll use this as an example. I'll like put arrows through it and then I'll usually write what was wrong, although with the students I didn't. So I might say, the 2 sliding glass doors on the right, if you zoom in, you'll notice that there's some messy, uneven line work. Or I'll say, you never finished drawing these windows, and so on and so forth. And if you have any questions about my grading or you want me to talk to you more, I'm willing to set up meetings and schedule that with you. So it's -2 for week 3 and week 4. I'm being nice too, but that means if these things are wrong by week 5, everything needs to be corrected. So if this wall was too short, you need to make sure your new file, all the things I've asked for corrections in 3 and 4 are up to date and corrected on your final file submission. I will be looking for them to be changed and I will remark off for anything that isn't corrected. So trying to be fair because of the break, making things less point values, and giving you some time to correct it before 3 and 4. All right, so enough on homework. If you want to talk more about that, we could talk about it privately. Um, I also note that let's look at this. We're going to go to our sessions and we'll go down into week 5. Site plan and section drawing. If we open up our assignment 5, we'll just walk through our assignment tonight. I want to pull up a boathouse drawing though. So here's a core with hatched walls, for instance. And I want to note that here you see this little window. So I think it was Michelle who brought it up. It could have been another student. It happens every year. I always forget this window and I reuse my PDFs which have it, but I forget to mention it. And I don't think it's included in the dimensioning. So sometimes it gets left off, but some of you filled it in. I believe that's the one that might have been missing from some of your files if I open them up. So if it was missing, my hope is that it will be added. If you need any dimensions to add that, let me know in the chat tonight. And maybe we can review that. Maybe you just estimated about this. It looks like Amanda did it because I have her file open. Amanda, did I have it on the PDF later and you fixed it or?
No, I was putting in all the window sizes, and as I was just going around measuring them, I think I
Huh?
was looking at something else and noticed the little window.
Okay, and then you just added it. So
Yeah.
so some of you did and some of you didn't. I'm not marking off for that. That's totally my fault. But it, especially if you're in space planning, you want it because I mean, if you put this to be a cabinet or something and you're blocking a really nice usable window, that's no good. So we want to get it added. It falls right in here and you just center it between this little piece. I can talk about it more in like notes later. So what is for homework this week? Assignment 5. So number 1, everyone change standard colors of a wall, windows, doors, deck, and patio to be either 252 or 254. Manage your layers. as you will. I love myself. I love listening to myself. All right, as you will, but there must be logic. For example, you could create a section drawings layer or just use a wall and window and door. So what I'm saying is as we encounter new layers tonight and new drawn items, I'm not going to keep going back and forth. Maybe at some point I might do some layer management in my video, but you can choose to do it my way or your way. As long as the labels that you use make sense with what's being drawn, I'm going to let you manage from here on out how you want them. Now, if you had a door on a roof layer, that would be a big red flag that you're going to get that marked off for me. But if it's the section on the wall layer, however you want to do that is fine. So let's start with this color change, 252 or 254. Let's look at what those are. A walls, windows, doors, deck, patio. So some of you might already have it, and if I check, for instance, this is Amanda's file. Every week I try to pick randomly a file, a student file. So if I go into her A wall, she has it 255, which is, I want it changed. So I know I said last week 255, and I said, and then we're going to change it, and we're going to go back and forth. The honest reason is because 255 won't show up in a monochrome plot the way that we want it to. So if I change it to be 254, then it automatically changed because it's on a layer. Same thing for, let's try our windows and doors. If I come into this layer and I want it by layer, I'm going to do it from here so I don't confuse you because I said never use the little drop down menu. So I go up and it's 255. I'm just pushing it over to 254 and saying okay, and then it should change everything on my layers. Now, so this is on windows and doors. Right now, to me, it looks like the color of the window is being driven by its layer, so it feels whiter to me. It could just be my eyes. I'm getting old, but like this one seems gray and this one seems white, which tells me something about the original black. Most likely, its color is being driven by the black. So I'm going to check that. If I go into my edit, in 4, and I select on this, and I go to home, and see how it says Boathouse blocks here? So this is a problem quite a few of you were still having, and I don't blame you because it was explained, but really quickly and disjointedly. So what's happening is when you create a block, it's created by whatever layer you were on when you drew that block. So for our windows, they're driven by the layer Boathouse blocks, which means if I go back to her drawing, I'm going to close out of this, and I want to turn my windows off, even though she's done everything right and put them on the windows and doors layer. When I go to turn off the windows and doors layer, turn it off, they didn't go away. And some of you were like, and you noticed that, and then we talked, and then we fixed it, and some of you left it because you did do it right. So why, when I click on it, your computer's thinking smart for you. It's like, she changed it, we're going to show it changed up here. But it still has the properties of however it was drawn in whatever computer file it was drawn before until you change it in the block. So we have to, if we want it to turn off, go up and get into our editor, zoom out, window select our whole block, go to home, and in the blocks layers, change them to be on the appropriate windows and doors layers. I wasn't really mean about marking off on this, more so about the drawing technique and that we got the blocks where they needed to go, but you're going to want to change them. And it disappeared because it's on that layer now, so it disappeared in our black thing. So I'm going to save the changes, and now that one disappeared because it's appropriately on windows and doors and toggles on and off with that layer. So if I turn windows and doors back on, they pop up. So if you're in space planning, or if you just want to manage things better, and I shouldn't say if, but I'm telling you, you will move all of the blocks to be on the same layer as windows and doors by changing them through the editor. That was part of the homework. It wasn't explained well. I'll give you until next week to just update those blocks, just the windows and the doors. Everything else should be fine. All right, so that would allow me to change, like once I go in and edit them and change them to windows and doors after I've set windows and doors to be 254, they'll all change to that color as I slowly edit them. That's the only thing weird that didn't change for her. So I updated my A wall, my windows and doors, I changed, and then my deck and patio as well. So I can go to layers, properties, come over to deck, and if I have bad eyesight like me and I'm coming in here, I'm like, where is it? I could just highlight the word so I can follow the line and come to the color and then push it to be that color. And the same thing for my patio, 254. Okay. Now I'm going to show you, a lot of you are like, my printing was ugly. I didn't really care. I just wanted to see you could make a PDF, and if it didn't show up, oh well, that's fine with me. But how you get it to show up consistently is, well, now we have this light gray drawing. If I go up to my plotter and I just say, it says unreconciled layers. A lot of you are worried about this thing. View the list, just say no, and then continue to plot a single sheet. And up here in the plot style table, I'm going to choose monochrome. And that just means that whatever lines I chose, regardless of being gray, white, red, green, it's going to be driven by its thickness. So like 252 might be thinner than something of another color, 253 even thinner yet. And it's going to make them all black though. So if I preview it, it's nice and black and beautiful. So by just changing that monochrome setting, we can print what we need to. Of course, we have to change this to drawing to a PDF. I'll pick Adobe PDF. Really, drawing to a PDF is best. So if you come down to these two, this one's more accurate. And then click OK and document. Let's do, I love my desktop. You should be sending it to your AutoCAD folder because you're good at organizing things. And if I close down and I come to my desktop and I open my PDF, yay, there it is. So that solves a lot of your problems in printing and visibility. You don't have to change a PDF for me this week. I don't know that I asked for it. We'll see it later in the homework, but you don't have to resend anything. Last week was just the test of, can you make a PDF? All right, so we've changed these layers. We're gonna go on to, this says, remember for printing, always choose monochrome. Just for your life and like efficiency between the two classes or this class, I try to be really obvious about the assignments so you can remember, oh, what week was hatching in the site plan? And then once you get in the homework, like, oh, what are my prompts to help me go through this? I try to be really good at organizing this information. If there's things you think I should add, do let me know. So remember for printing, then complete the hatching on our floor plan. This is the easiest part of tonight. You can do it again. Yep, go ahead. You can, endless ones. It just tells me the time that you sent in, and I'll choose the last one. All right, so here is a new PDF. And what's different about it is it has all this lovely solid wall hatching, which used to take us hours of marker work when we were doing it by hand, but now the computer can do quickly if our drawing is done well. Now hatching is the hardest thing for AutoCAD to think about, in that it kind of slows your computer down. You might experience that if your computer is not a very good computer, and you might keep it turned off most of the time. So how we have the layer visibility. So I will create a new layer for my hatching so I can turn that off, because when it's on, the computer has to generate those lines and it's just too much information. On a new layer, and I'm gonna say walls, or if you want to know what it is, we could do the hatch first, hatch walls, and that way you could alphabetically find it very easily, hatch walls. And I'll keep it at 254, that's fine. And click off and I've got a new layer. I'm going to make that active and close out. So we're about to find out how strongly put together Amanda's file is. If there were holes, like if Amanda went crazy the other night and this was what her wall looked like, the hatch command will go, there's no boundary that's defined. I can't figure this out. But if it's all really nice and filleted and clean, there's no secret gaps in between things, should all work out. It's a moment of truth. So we're going to go to the hatch. It's found in your draw panel in the upper left-hand corner. And we can just left click on the hatch tool, which brings up the hatch menu. And we're going to go back and look at our PDF just again as a reference. So it's solid black. If I control zoom into oblivion, I don't see any line work in here. So that signifies to me it's solid, as well as if I read the hatch settings on my directions found on the PDF, make a new layer, hatching. I called it hatch walls. That way I could do it. We make it current. And then for solid, simply select solid hatch and match what the plan shows. So that means we've got to hatch every piece where we see solid black. Control minus, 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 minus. And then I'm going to go back to my drawing. I'm going to left click on solid and it's going to hatch on whatever the active layer is. So don't click off like I am, but remember, we're hatching on hatch walls because we chose it. So if I go back to my hatch tool menu, hatch creation, and I toggle with the menu up here, solid, I'm going to pick part. So left click, aha, good. Then I'm going to left click, and I should be able to just go all the way around. It's really satisfying. Uh-oh. That's not good. So I want you to see this. This could happen to you. Not just it doesn't know how to find the right boundary, but if I hit undo because I've continued to click each section without getting out of the command, it's going to undo everything. So that might be something to think about, like, oh, I had this good piece and this good piece, so I could have hatched them separately and then I wouldn't be in as much trouble. So if I left click hatch and I do that and then I hit escape, now it's its own hatch. And then when I get into the problem area, if I continue, it won't delete everything. So then it's like, and then I'm like, okay, I'm going to hit escape. But this piece is separate than this piece. I'm going to delete that out. And I'm just going to zoom in and see why it's happening. So there's a couple things going on. Amanda, you're not being penalized for this, but we're going to find things out, and I bet a lot of people are going to find out things. So for instance, we have this piece and this window sitting on top. So for a second, I'm going to move our window, just move it up a little bit. And then I'm going to say, here's my line here. And we thought maybe if we had deleted off this edge work of this, it would work better. So what's happening is hatch ignores this block as a boundary because it's not snapped cleanly to any corner. And so it doesn't know to stop, and it hatches through the whole object. So if she had just had these lines here, it will close off the object. And if we move this back, and like we kind of showed in the video, so if I go into her block and edit it then, and I just say, well, I drew those back in, and I already have a top and bottom line, so I'll delete those and save it, then it should work now. So if I left click on my hatch, yay. And the understanding is that I've created a non-continuous shape by putting in these vertical pieces. So that tells me the same issue with the blocks is happening, and I need to continue to change it in such a way that there's an end created with the wall, right? So I'm going to just delete off that piece and say, okay, if I pull her little door out to the side, boop, then we would have one of those pieces. So if she wants to do it the easiest way, she could, while the block is in place, kind of zoom in here and find where it's supposed to be. And she wants to meet up with wherever her actual dimension line is to make sure we're not getting off. And this is where I said, some of you also had like a little bit of cattywampus, like you kept my block and it was off. So like there's little uglinesses, and we had talked about changing those in the video. So these are things you'll pick up on. Like I said, I'm being really lenient in the last homework. I understand blocks are hard and there was pieces missing there. So we'll see how to correct them as we go. No one should feel bad about it. Amanda should not feel bad. Okay, so let's turn her dimensions on really quick, because actually her drawing was really nice and I checked it for accuracy, very accurate. If I come out from my dimension and draw my line in place, I could make those 8-foot marks, and then I could edit my block. So I could move it, come to my other dimension, then I know it was really the 8-foot, and then edit this so it doesn't have the lines and finish it all the way around. So I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit tonight and finish off her hatch for her. So we get this one. Oh, not that one. If that happens, we have to start over unless we do each piece separately. So that's totally your decision. That one went through. One thing about your hatch, you can usually, I don't want to lie to you, if once you place it, so once I get out of the hatch, I hit escape and I place it, it has varying levels of pick points to it. So I'm clicking on the edge, I want to say, of my hatch. This might have been an old thing that they don't do anymore. There used to be nodes that went along with it and you could kind of like stretch it. Oh man, they changed it on us. So we'll just undo that piece. And all it's telling me is wherever she has a window or a door, I'm just going to make sure that I add my lines back in. And she could go back through and trim them in the end after she just gets some lines in, about to draw them. We can add our hatch in for here and here, and then I'm going to exit out of it this time so we at least get our 3 beautiful pieces. 2, 3. Escape. So now those ones are set. And then, like I'm saying, if you just have a little bit of overlap for these lines, we could just trim them. So I use the trim tool and I can go back through. I don't want to take a lot of time for you to make these corrections. And then you could put your blocks back in place. So then in here, she should be okay because this should be a wall-to-wall thing. So we'll let that little piece, this little piece. Technically, you're seeing the top of the fireplace that's conjoined to the wall, so you would put that to be solid as well. And then we want to check this piece. Good, she's good. And this piece, if I hover, let it think about it. I'm gonna let it think about this one. Maybe I'll hit escape at this point because I've got a lot of good things going for me and I don't want to mess it up. Move this guy into place. But some of you might have been able to go all the way around and you're just fine. And then this last piece, let's try to hatch it on its own. It's good. It's good. It's good. Good, good, good. Okay, so not too bad. And then in the middle, we should have some solid pieces as well. You can tell my computer is already like thinking. It's like, wow, there's a lot going on. So let it think through that. Don't rush it. Don't keep clicking when it kind of pauses on the blue cursor. Just slow down, take your hand off the mouse, let it think. And now I could maybe look at my PDF to see that these aren't fully solid. There's some work that I have to do with the drawing because this is an empty pipe chase, which the students in Cheryl, Professor King's class would know. We got to leave it empty to house those pipes. So to accomplish it, it says we're going to do a 4-inch offset where noted 2 foot. So you can see it's 2 foot in, and then we'd hatch that solid. I'm going to hatch these 2 guys because they're really easy. So if I go back up to hatch, and like right now my computer is thinking, so I'm just letting it think. It's thinking because it's thinking I want to hatch this whole floor plan. So I'm like slowly dragging my mouse. There we go. Get it there. And then every time I come out, it's thinking, I want to get something else. So I've got to, it's like every time it pauses in the floor plan, it's thinking, you really want to do this floor plan? So I'm trying to move it. There we go. So those are done. And then I'll hit escape because I'm done. And all I'm doing is left click solid and then find the point that I want within my floor plan. Okay, and then this in here, we're saying we have to build a pipe chase that's 2 foot over here and 4 inches in on all of the other sides. So I could do an offset and we'll say 2 foot, enter, left click my line, pull it to the left. and then do an offset of 4 inches. So left click to offset 4 inches, enter. Pull the top down, pull the right or left to the right, pull the bottom up, and then do some fillet work. Left click fillet, corner, hit enter to get back in the fillet command. Left click those 2 lines, and then enter, fillet that side, enter, fillet this side. And that would complete all of that work. Let me double check with my PDF. It's 4 inches in and 2 foot on that side, and I'm ready to hatch. So now if I come up to my hatch, and I don't think we're about to find out the dimension is going to affect it because it's on a separate layer and the computer should know that. If not, we'll turn our dimensions off. So if I try my hatch tool, left click, it's on solid, and I go to hatch, it ignores that dimension line and it hatches right through my pipe chase. I'm not going to explain the other pipe chase because the directions are on the PDF and it's very similar to the top one. So that is how we hatch solid. We'll talk more tonight about changing controls within hatch, change the types of lines, and possibly the colors that we would use to hatch. I'm going to go back to my class assignment and look at what's next. So it says complete our hatching. That's 20 points. Create the section drawing to be hatched and dimensioned appropriately. So we have 2 PDFs for this guy. This one, which shows how we're to hatch everything with the hatching directions on it. And this one, which leaves off the hatching so we can see more of the line work that's used to create the overall elevation, interior elevation of our boathouse. I know that it's interior because I'm seeing the fireplace here, and then I'm not seeing how the fireplace connects on the outside, but am seeing how it conjoins to the roof up here. It's very easy to modify this by flipping it the other way to make your exterior elevation and deleting off the fireplace. Just saying, for some of you that are in space planning, it's a smart thing to do. It'll make more sense after we draw this once. Let's see that we know exactly what we're drawing. Kind of zoom in a little bit so I can read some of these dimensions and go ahead and start building some outside framework to trim up to make everything work. I want to get myself a baseline with which to put in my concrete pad in here, or whatever the house is built on. It could be a bunch of, 2x4 floor joists that are running, but we just have a very basic ground of some type. It's 1 foot, I believe. So if I'm going to get even closer, Control+ into my document and scroll over. Zoom. 1 foot. And I'll just want to start with a base so I have something to offset up from and something to offset down from. I know you probably remember drawing elevations from your intro and from hand drafting. So it's really loose in your mind. Will help solidify what it's like. So today we're also going to look at this control in the upper right hand corner. And I'm going to rotate our house so that when I'm drawing, I can think of this wall being drug up off of my plan. So I'm going to hit the rotation arrow to the left and then just take your hand off of it once you click on it one time, because it needs to think about getting the whole drawing to move. Boop. Okay, so there is what you should be seeing now. Some of you might have your blocks off this direction just like I had it in the video. And then we've got our walls so that we could start building up off of our plan. At this time, my suggestion would be to turn off any unnecessary layers like our hatch wall. I'm going to make a wall my current layer. Okay. And I'm going to, while I'm in here, turn off her dimensions, turn off her patio dimensions are already off in hers, and turn off her hatching. Okay, and hatch walls. Hey, you guys already had a hatch layer. We'll use that hatch layer that you've created already for the, hold on. Ah, there we go. Okay. Turn off our hatch walls. And then we'll use this hatch. We'll adjust it so it's not a useless layer in your CAD. We'll use it for our elevation or section, I should say. Okay, so first of all, we could give ourselves just like some guidelines of how far over our house is, starting with the exterior wall, and then how far over it is on this side. Okay, and if I'm looking at my PDF, that's going to be this right here. I drew this line up and this line up, but in reality, I'm just trying to get an idea of the boundary with which this house is going to fall in between. I'm going to trim them and then do the ground first. So a little ways up away from my plan, then I could draw a line horizontally through this. And I just connected it, and that's what I'm going to offset to that 1 foot to have a ground line to start building up from. So if I left click offset and I type in 1 foot, enter, and I pull up and left click, it will create that ground line. At this point, I'm going to trim these lines away so I can draw everything else. So if I left click trim and I select these 2 ground lines and then hit enter, I'm going to trim the top and the bottom away. So now all that's showing, and then I'll hit escape to finish my command. Now all that's showing is just this concrete or floor joist. It's the floor of our house in section view. This right in here, the 1 foot. So from there I can say, if I draw this line up on the edge, I can get this little hedge of my roof line. And then if I draw this line up on the edge, I could get an interior dimension so far in. So we're not going to actually draw this exterior one first. We're in fact going to draw the interior one, but we need to know how far over to come to draw this 11-foot tall interior point. And you just have to trust me, it'll all start piecing together here. But it's the same on both sides, right? This point here, I wish I had like a fancy, I'm going to do this, watch. Snipping tool, my favorite of the tools. New. Swing. So right now I'm saying we're going to start with this height, which is 11 foot, and it's the same on both sides. But in order to find that, I'm not on the exterior line, which is where the outside of that floor is falling because I drew up from the very outside. I need to find this measurement in, which is, it looks like 1 foot 6 inches. And that makes sense because the thickness of our walls are 1 foot 6. So if I measure my thickness of the wall to confirm, it should be 1 foot 6. Good job, Amanda. So we come up here and we can give ourselves a point to start right here. And then on the other side, we can do the same thing coming in the thickness of the wall. So that's this corner here, and pull up, making sure our green line is on so that we have 1 foot 6 and 1 foot 6 when we measure in. Perfect. Okay, so then I said I could find those 2 first walls interior. They're 11 foot high. And I know this because I have the original copy and I had to use a hand scale to measure all the files that Cheryl gave me printed off of the book they're using for space planning. So if I left click my line tool and I start at this point, I can pull up 11 foot, enter. And then I could hit escape and do the line tool again on the other side, left click and pull up 11 foot, enter. And so far, what I have created for myself is this line here and this line here, okay? So after I have that, what I could find out is, let's see, we're going to keep going inside. Maybe we'll draw this line and this line. We'll get all of our major verticals in. So this line is going to be, it says 12 foot here, coming off of this column up, and then on the other side it should be 12 foot as well, and then 5'3" at that point. But we're just going to draw the 12 foot up first. So if I come back to my plan, I can start pulling up points to help me from my floor plan. So I'm pulling up the columns right now, and I'm going to just keep using my line tool, locking in from the corner points all the way up, keeping that green, the green dash line should be on. It says it's parallel and straight. And then it said there's some lines coming up off of those that are 12 foot. Enter. And then on the other side, 12 foot, enter. And eventually we're going to extend them, but I'm just doing the dimensioning based off the plan. Oh, hold on. I'm going to pause the recording just for 1 second.
This conference will
There we
now
go.
be recorded.
All right, so I'm going to keep going with all of the horizontal offsets, and then at the end, I'll make one solid decision about the roof. But we can go ahead and draw up. I drew up to here the column. We know from our PDF that the column is gonna be this wide, so as wide. We're just gonna draw it up 12 foot as well. Eventually, we're gonna extend it all the way through, like what you're seeing over here. But in here, it looks like 12 foot plus 5'3". And so we'll draw up 12 foot from this point after we draw this line up. So we drew it up there, we'll go up 12 foot, enter. And I'm going to delete this out. That's an extra line that you don't have. And then this side as well, up 12 foot, enter. And then from the interior line, we're going to say up 5'3" additional, enter. And on this side, up 5'3", enter. Okay, we're gonna go back to our PDF, and we're going to say we could really place our doors and windows if we just have an idea of where these openings are for them. So I'll minimize this and look at our drawing down here, and find my little edges. I'm gonna move her doors because they're not perfectly snapped in. So let's see. So you're definitely going to want to do the drawing work that I had done of fixing your windows if you don't have those little left sides in. So if I measure over from the corner to where this is, we say on our PDF, that should be 6 foot to the door. And if you just have it right, you could just pull this line up. So if I come over here, and I'm going to pull this way, 6 foot, enter, and then go up, I'll have created this line in here. And it should be as simple as pulling up from the existing doorway. And then it'd be as simple as pulling up a line from the edge of the door on the other side once you've corrected it. So it says that would be, we'd have 8 foot, and then it'd be 2'6". So we just need to come over 8 foot from our last line. So for me, if I don't know it, I could hover here and come over 8 foot, enter, and then pull up, and I get my next point. And then I have a place where I could snap in the elevation of those doors. So I could come up to my block that should be hanging out in my file and move it down about its corner point into place here. by snapping it into place. And we see it does snap right onto our drawing. So I'm going to, oh, I have it down lower. Gotta move it up and snap it right in here. So if I come from here over and go up, and I take it and I move it, should be able to grab the corner and snap it into place there. And it should be pretty clean. These blocks shouldn't be something you have to edit this week. They just work. So if I measure my door block base, it's 8 foot in distance and it snaps into that location for the door. So once I get my door in place, I could technically, get rid of, I'm going to just pull the nodes down because I might want to use them for something else below, but I don't have to have the lines coming through the ground here. In the PDF, it's nice and clean, and then you see my door. Now I could add in trim in here just so that we're finishing off pretty much a full section without the exception of the roof. So it's 7-inch trim, which you can see right here, the tiny dimension tells me how high off it is. So I could go in here and hover over this point and pull up 7 inches, enter, and click, and then come to my door and connect. And I could do the same thing on the other side from the column, hover, pull up 7 inches, enter, click, and then pull over and connect. So I've got my trim, my door, my column, and my interior wall. And then I could also take this line here and offset it so that I get my exterior one. So, and then we'll kind of trim and extend it. So if I do an offset of, we said 1'6", I believe, for the width, I'll go offset 1'6", enter, click this interior line and pull it to the left to give me the outside. I could hit enter again to continue. Well, I'm going to nix that. So we've got all these pieces now. We can do the same thing on the other side, except there's different things to snap in because we have the French doors in here. So she does have these really nice lines in here. It is something that if these lines are correct, then you can do one of these things where you say, I want to extend, which is trim, then change it to extend to here, enter these lines, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and it saves you a lot of clicking. But then you need to trim off in between because you don't want to lose the lines you've drawn here by pulling them up here and then you pull on them or do something wrong. So we could then trim from here and here out all this middle junk that was connected to the windows. So I'd hit, that's the outside line of the house and the bottom of the ground, and hit enter because that's what I want to trim in between, and I'll get rid of those lines so that it keeps those lines on the house and it keeps them up here on my section drawing. So I've got these nice points to snap in my windows, but you'll notice I don't have any windows, which is sad. I do have a fireplace, so if I also extend up a line for my fireplace, I can snap that guy in place. So I have created a corner point there, and I can just grab my fireplace, select and move. Now this is the weird thing I taught you one way. So I could select this and then left click move and then begin to move him about a point, or escape. I could have clicked move and then it says select object, select him, hit enter to confirm, and then pick the point. 2 ways to skin a cat. And then I'm going to move it about its bottom point because this is the elevation of that, and so I need to see it fully elevated. I'm going to snap it into this corner point, and there I have my fireplace set in its spot. It should be equal on both sides, and you could check all of that before your final submission, but it looks pretty good. Now, I used to make everybody, I've gotten so much nicer over time, draw this from scratch. each of the French doors. But now I do believe I supplied you with the block because I want you to save time, and especially because I'm making you re-edit some of your window blocks, or you're just getting the grading back and some of your walls fell short, or you got to move something. So if I go to the assignment, there's a drawing file at the bottom called Boathouse Elevated French Door. I'm going to left click it, and here it is. It's rotated sideways, which is fine for now because this is actually how it needs to come in. We're rotated in our drawing, and in here it's how it should be standing up. Maybe you get that, maybe you don't. Notice it's on this random layer OI core, so we're going to have to change the blocks layer when we move it. But for now, I'm just going to copy it, select it, come up to the copy clip, left click, go into my drawing, and paste it. Now see, it came in the right way because we're rotated over here to be how we need to be to put it in. So I'm going to left click to drop it, but I want this to be with everything else. So whether that's a wall or whether I end up creating a layer called section drawing eventually, I'll move that block at that time. For now, I can place it in my drawing. So I'm going to move it about its corner point into place. So there's one, and I can copy it and move it over until I've got both of them. And I'm really close to having the top portion of my house done. So I'm going to try one more thing because I'm always wondering how I ever came up with this. Okay, so there's that. I'll say up 8 foot, enter. Move. Okay, so I don't want to do that. Okay, so what I'm trying to figure out is how I want to place my roof. And it was like this very obscure non-math that I used a long, many 4 classes years ago to do it. If I've got my 2 columns, I imagine I took this weird 5'3" measurement in order to find a midpoint to help place it. The angling makes everything kind of strange. And so what I'm thinking is if I do 5'3" plus 12, I've got to figure out what that'll give me. I know 5'3", so that's 17'3", I want to say. I'm just going to double check it with my calculator. Good for you if you can do easy math. All right, plus 5. Yep, okay, 17'3", and I need to get to 20. So 20 foot minus 17'3" means I'm going to have something 9. So 9 would get me to 18, 19, 20. 2'9", I want to say. Let me check that and see if it gives me 20. So up 2'9", enter. And then I'll just do a measure from here. Okay, ha. So I'm going to see if I snap this, if that'll give me all these points of connection. And it does. And this is the first year I've ever been able to see it accurately and how I figured that out. Okay, so I hope you've kind of followed that. I'm going to kind of walk you through my logic of what just happened here. So we created our 12-foot column here. We created 12 plus 5'3" because it helps get me to this slanted point. I had done the original measuring on that. So we have 5'3" on each side. But what I know about the peak is that it's at 20 foot. And so I had to find the difference using the midpoint so that I know my roof is centered, but will give me the angled lines that match up with my outside points of this 11 foot. And so I took this, connected it at the 5'3" height, and went up 2'9" because it's the difference to get me to 20. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, you'd have to know it's 20 foot high. So I'm telling you, the information you know mathematically is from the bottom to the peak is 20 foot. So far, I had this measurement, 12, plus 5'3". I connected those points so that I'd say this is going to hit about, it's a little bit shy right in here of hitting perfectly these points, but it does hit these points. So I'm going to end up extending these two things. There's no real science to this. I'm just telling you how to do it my way. so then I connect them, and that gives me, I need to add 2'9" to get the rest of my 20-foot peak. So short instruction is draw 12, 5'3", draw 12, 5'3", connect these, go to the midpoint, take your line tool from the midpoint, pull up 2'9", and then grab your roof and snap it about its midpoint onto that measurement. And that will make these pretty clean on the outside with our interior walls. Once you have that all cleaned up and set, you can extend these lines like I was talking about. So I'm going to delete this line. I'm going to keep this central line just in case for measuring purposes. And I'm going to use extend again. So if I click on extend and I click on my block for the roof, and I'm going to do both sides, and I'll say enter. I'm going to extend up this side, and I'm going to extend up that side. I have to be on the higher part of the line. If I would have clicked the bottom, it would have gone down. So I want to click towards the roof line when I click to extend. And now it touches. Then I'm going to go back to my PDF of our section. And you see, this is the reality. These A and B, where it comes over like this, is telling you the flatness of the roof on this side. On this side, we have a 12-foot high roof. And so that means this is the gypsum board, basically, if you want to understand why there's a line here. It could have some thickness to it in reality, but I just have a line, and the hatch helps me understand. That's where it will end in the core with hatched walls, or you'll see, here's where the roof ends. This is like attic space on each side. And then it's fully tall at that 20-foot peak in the center. So if I go back to my hatch, I'm going to extend this side of my column and this side of my column to finish off this central space. I'm going to go back to my AutoCAD. And I could extend it, or another way is to keep my green line going up, and I can just have it with its node connect to the top. Either way, whichever way you feel most comfortable with. So now I've got this side of my building, I've got this all good. Is there anything that's missing? I'm missing another door. So if I look at my PDF, hopefully we could just draw up from the door, but if not, then I need to know from this side of the column, I'm coming over 3'6" to get to where my first point to place the door is. So here's my column. If I grab my line tool and I hover at this point and I come over 3'6", enter, and then I come down just to get that corner point, and I could delete this out later. I could copy this over, copy about the left point, and place it onto that point. And then that's where my door is falling. So I've got so much done on this elevation. On the exterior, I just need to trim off this piece until it's below the roof. So I don't worry about its measurement. I don't care if it measures out perfectly. What I do, how I place the roof, do that, and then trim any extra out from there. Here it connects nicely. We have to offset to get the other piece. So the piece I offset it on this side, we could trim it, or we could grab its node and just snap it down. If I come on this side, I need to do my 1'6" offset to find the other exterior piece. So I'm going to do offset 1'6", enter, and I'm going to click on this line and pull it out, and then just shorten this line down. And I could have trimmed it as well. So we've got most of this started. Let's talk about, we said, changing this all into its own layer. So I've got bathroom, boathouse, ceiling symbols, core changeable, dimensions, deck, equipment, HVAC, hatch. I mean, if you want to. I want it to be on its own deal because I can toggle it all off. So I'm going to do section, walls, And I'm going to make section walls active. And I'm going to select everything for now, because this isn't like a floor plan where like I need the windows to turn off for any reason. I'd always be showing this drawing as a completed thing, so it could all technically be on that layer. In fact, no, notice my columns are kind of, oh, so these are just guidelines. So yeah, I can highlight those too. I was just saying if they attached here, I wouldn't want them to. So if you extended from there, you'd be in trouble. I can collect all of this, go to my section walls, and I could check pieces of it. Now this is the one where I said, sure, I put it on section walls, but are these blocks going to go with it? Well, let's find out. If I turn off section walls, nope, they stayed on. So we're gonna have to go in and edit them a little bit, both for their color and for other reasons. So if I go into the block by clicking on it and click edit, okay, select the whole thing, go to home in the upper left-hand corner, change it from core OI to section drawing walls. That's fine. It's just turned off because that layer is turned off in the real drawing. And I'll save it. And now it turns off. And the same thing would be true for this door. I want to edit my block. Okay. Because the block is controlled by whatever drawing created it. And so it's still stuck on boathouse blocks. And then if I change it to sections walls, all of its features will be controlled by that. Its color, its visibility. I've got to do the same to my fireplace, but I'm not going to do that right now. I've shown it enough ways. So we'd have to do the fireplace and the roof. Everything needs to be on section walls or moved at least so its visibility is controlled by a new type of layer you create outside of boathouse blocks and outside of, say, windows or only or some other weird layer. Okay, I'm going to turn section walls on. And then we could continue to draw the base of the house. And if I pull up my PDF, notice that here's a footing. So this might be some type of big concrete thing. And then we have our continual timber that might go through and up through the floor joist. So we want to have this on each side. It's a really easy from that point measure down. We know that this is a 3-foot offset. And then we could draw each of these things. These things are centered. So if I have the column, this is the width of the column drawn down below. I could draw this 3-foot line, the baseline first for one of these. There's only, it looks like you need to know one more thing that I'm not showing here. So hold on tight because you're going to need to know it from the video. I'm going to tell you this measurement in here and I'm just going to estimate it. So it looks like if it's 3 foot, let's say, what would be a believable measurement for those items because it doesn't show up on this PDF. So 3 foot, enter. And then I could draw a line over that tells me all of my footers, ugly, are going to fall on that line. So down, 3 foot, enter, click, and then pull over. Okay. So if I was going to offset this believably, I could do offset, I want to say it's 2 foot and then 1 foot for the rest, given how it looks. So it'd be 2 foot for this, and then 1 foot for the rest. So if this, so something went weird. I want to make sure it's 3 foot, my measurement on the outside. It clearly got snapped to something because there's a little baby line in here. So I'll give it one more try. Down, 3 foot, enter, then over. Okay, now it's going to work for us. Then I'm going to offset 2 foot because that looks like a good chunk of that. There we go. And then you could see how if this was that, this is about that 1 foot distance. So I'm saying you're going to have 2 foot dimension. here, and then a 1 foot dimension here. That's going to help build in the pieces you're seeing in the PDF here. So 2 foot tall for the big fat part and 1 foot tall for the skinny part. You have the width, so it's 2 foot wide, and then we can see that that's probably 6 inches and 6 inch. This is 1 foot wide as well because they're perfect squares. So 2 foot wide and then 1 foot wide in this part. And that's just normal drawing. I'm not going to go much more into it. I do need this to be fully dimensioned. Let's look at our assignment and I'm going to help make that clear. So is it say it dimension properly? So appropriately means matching PDF. Let's be extra clear on that. And I will save it. All right, so that covers how to draw the majority of our section. We'd have to clean it up until it completely matched our PDF, put things on the right layers and organize it. Then we have to complete a site plan to be hatched and dimensioned appropriately. So what does that look like? Let's close out because I've got 10,000 different PDFs going on up here. Here's my site plan. I've included a big one, and then these color circles represent the closer measurements that you can see. Because if you try to zoom in on here, you can kind of see them, and they'll work. But I have some separate files that help you see the zoomed versions as individual pages. So here you could see the zoomed in measurement would be 45, 2, and 4. And that relates back to these if they're hard to see, no matter how much you zoom in, okay? So looking at my site plan, that's where it falls in its neighborhood, on its road, on its plot of land. When we draw the site plan of the house, we're just going to have it be a solid, more thick line that's represented by a 0.5 thickness that's hatched with an ANSI hatch. That's kind of a diagonal hatch instead of a solid hatch. And then we can see we're going to get rid of the detailing on our patio and on our deck over here. So we're going to have to put the boards and the tiles possibly on their own layers, because we don't want to have unless we have a copy of it and we can delete them out. So I do believe I've always drawn the site plan separately to save you a little bit of time. So what that looks like is coming into our original house and turning off all of this while I copy over this. So at this point, I'm going to say secretly, Amanda was working very hard and she finished her section, and now she's ready to rotate her file back so she's looking at it normally. Boop. And she can turn off that section walls layer, and this would be on that layer. So yay, she turned it off because it's on the layer. And then we have just the original house. She could turn off everything that goes with the house that's extraneous. So for us, when we're going to do this copy, that means turning off our windows and doors layers. So if I come in here, I turn off my windows and doors layers, and Amanda has moved all of those appropriately. So she could turn them off and they'd all go off just like this. Do all at once, and she'd have all of her lines. And she's also going to turn off any dimensioning if it's still on, any of the labels. It's going to be real basic. Okay, she's going to turn on her deck and patio. So deck and her patio. And she's going to just make a hard copy of the whole thing. So she's going to select it, and she's going to copy it, and she's going to pull it way over here to the bottom left, far away from the rest of her drawing. It could really go anywhere away from the drawing, because we'll organize it on sheets later that will keep it to itself. So she's got this much copied. Let's look at what the PDF looks like. Well, it's empty in here, so that tells me I can simply delete all of this off. And I can also delete anything interior to the exterior wall. So I'm going to delete this, 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 this. I'm just getting the basic footprint of my overall house. Deleting out all the interior walls, the doors. Let's see, did I go too far? In here, I think I just got rid of the door block and I continued this off because this was the hard outside line, and then deleted this in here and deleted all the tiles. Continuing with my section tool. Okay. And you can refer back to the PDF. I'm just trying to avoid jumping back and forth. Okay, got that out. Then we could have all of our floorboards. Okay. There's only one thing about this. For tonight, I'm going to just have you delete it because it's easier to think about. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. So we're going to delete our floorboards. Okay. We're going to look back at our guy here. We left the railing pretty nondescript and this fairly open in here. So I could come in here and get rid of any extra details by just doing a selection tool inside the lines, deleting out any little guys. Okay, and the same thing at the top. Yay, on the little handle. Okay, so I look to be in good shape, but it says that these lines represent exterior walls are drawn as 0.5 thickness. We haven't talked much about the direction, like anything beyond direction of the line and line type, like polyline, arc versus a shape, but each line has a color and then it also has a thickness. So if we go into our layer properties and I have my section walls layer, those things are driven, they've got color. They also have line type and line weights. So for this, if I'm looking at the layers that I have over here, let's see, bathroom ceiling, core unchangeable, deck dims, all of this. For tonight, I'm going to create a site plan layer. So if I go into my layers, new layer, site plan, and I'm going to make it visible and double click on it. Oh, it's frozen. I accidentally hit my freeze. If that happens to you, you click Mr. Sunshine and it unfreezes. And then now it's active because the green check mark. And I can just highlight all over this and then come in and choose site plan. So now it's all on the same thing. And then I'm going to individually select these lines that are not the deck and the patio. And I'm going to have them be driven by themselves. So let me see if I can do it this way. Go through and select all of the lines of the house first until we get a good outline. And then I'm going to right click and click properties. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to change the line thickness to be 0.5, enter. Now that means that I'm driving these lines separate to be separate in thickness than the actual layer site plan. I've chosen individual lines to make a 0.5 thickness. Now I'm going to see if I did do it or not. and I'm just going to check it to prove it to you really quick. So if I go into this and I move my original plan from the architectural D size and I pull this here, you're not going to notice the thickness change in the drawing window, but you will notice it when you go to print. So if I go up to plot and I say no, continue to plot, and I pick monochrome always now, and I pick preview, if I get in close, I should see a difference in the thickness. And right now, I'm not seeing 100% difference. I'm gonna go ahead and print it and then see if that changes it, just to be sure that it's not driven by the PDF. I'm gonna go to Drawing to PDF and click OK and save and overwrite the existing one. And we'll see if it doesn't change it more. If it doesn't, I'll check it. Get closer, just in case. Okay, so let's check my work then. And we'll see what we have to change in CAD to make it work. So I'm going to check this line. Properties. The thickness is 1/2. The line weight. Oh, this is what, that's why. We're going to set thickness back to 0, and then it'll all work out. So all I have to do is reselect all my lines, which you can do it this way too. I really drew it out last time, clicking on each of them individually. And then right click, and you want line weight, point, and really we want 5, not 0.5, and I'm going to confirm that. So 0.5, but not 0.05. So if I come in here, see, I don't want 0.05. I want it to be 0.5, which is thicker. And then I'm going to close out. Now, if I go back to my ArchD, we're going to plot. No. Continue. Preview. Oh, I skipped a step. Monochrome. Preview. There we go. So now you can see, and when you go to preview it, look, there was a little piece I left off. So you'll be able to tell the thickness difference, but only when you go to plot. And it's at this time where you're going to notice if you had any double lines. You see when I'm zoomed out, how this looks darker in here? That's telling me there might be a double line sitting on top of one in here that she needs to just delete out. And see also in here, there was probably a double line that needs to get deleted out. So printing will help you to see your errors. So now we've changed those lines, we've deleted off the deck, we've got to do this hatch. So we want ANSI 131 with the hatch rotation 0 and the scale of 150. What does that mean? I'm going to go back into here. It's just settings within my hatch, which is in the upper left-hand corner. So if I go into my hatch, and before we do that, let's go make sure that when we go to hatch, it's on a good layer. I could have everything technically on the site plan. If you want to break it out because you're like, you said that hatch is slow, then let's go ahead and make a site plan hatch. So we had this, we could use this hatch that we set up earlier, and we said we're not really using it, so maybe we could rename it in that layers property and say hatch site plan. So I'm just going to click on it and say hatch site plan. So it's a good usable layer. I'm going to see that it's active and close, and then go back to that hatch tool. ANSI 131, I believe that's the one we want, 131, rotation 0, scale 150. So it should be that our transparency, angle, layer, let me look at this. This tool is different than it is in 2017. So layer, angle, sorry, hatch. and C. Okay. This is 0. So that means if I had an angle, that would be its rotation. I want to say what used to be rotation is now angle. It's the same kind of thing, what degree it's going to be turned at. So it's 0. And then we said that we want its scale, which is this guy down here, to be 150. So I'm going to try that down here. Let me make sure. Yep, hatch pattern scale when I hover over it. I'm going to say 150, enter. And then I'm going to hover over this section and hatch. And because I didn't have a rotation angle and it's at 150, it should match what I'm seeing on my PDF. Yay! All right, so I've got that portion done. Then I need to draw in my river, and I need to draw in my road and my sidewalk and whatever is associated with this. I don't know exactly what this is. It might be some type of easement, but this is just how it's drawn in the book format that I've copied over from. So I could come in and see off of the porch corner, if I look at this one zoomed in, it looks like it's going to be 12 foot, and I can tell that. I'm going to use my snipping tool really quick so you can see what I'm seeing, and I'm going to use a red pen. If I draw a line down from the corner of the porch to here, these things are in line, and that's a 12-foot measurement, which tells me I'm coming out 12 foot to get to this point to start drawing that way, and I'm coming out 12 foot on the other side after coming up 4 foot. So I can go back to my drawing and choose my line tool. But this time I want to get off of Hatch Site Plan and get back onto my site plan layer that I created, site plan walls. Then I can come over here and say 12 foot, enter. Then it looked like on this side I came up 4 foot, then over 12 foot. And that creates the little walkway to get into the patio area in the front of the house. And then I need to start going off, up and down in order to create some of the road line divisions. So I'm going up 45 foot and I'm going down 48 foot. So with my line tool, I'd go up 45 foot, and with my line tool, I could come down 48 foot, enter. And continuing on with the PDF as my model, I could offset both of those lines 12 foot 6, and then do another full offset 4 foot, but it runs the whole length because this is kind of like the road, and then they turn into the driveway to park in front of their house. So the road should be continuous on this side, then offset 4, then offset 2 in order to finish out any line work on that side. So that's how we finish our site plan, except for our river spline. So the river spline is a block, and people always ask me, what is this measurement? And I totally made it up. So this is coming in from the water, and then it's coming underneath to the, they have like an under place to park their boat that falls underneath the deck coming off of the water. And so I just drew 2 lines out. It looks to be like if I drew this line down, it'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4 widths of 36. So I'm going to say whatever that is, I'll draw a line about that size. So, and where does it fall about that PDF? It looks like probably just like 48 inches down from there. So maybe center with the house if we want it to be. We could offset and start drawing from the center of the house. So center of my house, it looks like, is somewhere right in here. And I could just trim so that I'm using my line as a guideline, or pull this back even to be right here. And then I could say I'm going to draw this line up. I said 4 widths of 36. 36 times 4 equals 144, because I was like, that looks like this many stairways wide. So 144. 144, enter. And I'm gonna offset that 48 inches. These are estimations of what I think looks visually pleasing according to the plan. And then on the other side, it looks like I could do the same. Okay, and then I'm just gonna delete this off, and then I'm gonna come over here and grab my spline. And I'm gonna move it about its midpoint, and I'm gonna snap that midpoint to this line here, and then just clean up the bottom line. Just drag it, because it's just an estimation, and that tells me there's water with something leading under the boathouse. I can delete out my guideline, and now I've got it very much like the actual PDF. So a little bit more about hatching, just so you know. You could do any of these patterns, and they're great. You want to do brick. So if we don't want to do this, but let's say I had an elevation of a home, and this was my wall, and on that wall I have a door, and this is the exterior of it, and I go into my hatch and I pick brick and I make it to be a good size. So let's do this to be like 300, enter. And pick in there and see if we can't see it. Seems like it's having a hard time registering the sizing of it. And I'm gonna check 1. Usually it'd be like a nice clean thing to show you. So what layer am I on? I'm gonna put it on a wall, and I'm gonna make a wall active. Okay, I'm gonna go back into the hatch. There we go. It just didn't like the thickness of the last layer. So then I could have all the bricks drawn, which is nice because you didn't have to do them by hand, see? And you could change their scale, and once you place it, I believe you can change it from there. So then I could go 2, or I could do 20, and it'll get bigger or smaller about however I'm changing it, but it just saves a ton of work, and there's tons and tons of patterns, and there's more patterns you could load in. There's concrete, there's stone, and a lot of these are the architectural symbols. So like if you put earth on, a contractor would know that's the symbol for earth and know it's an earthen wall feature. So that makes these tools really, really fun to use as we get further along. Let's see, what else about hatch? You can also change its color. So if I want it to be orange and representative of the actual color of the brick, I could do that. So it works just like a line, and it works just like any other type of layer that you'd want to use. All right, I'm going to minimize this and all of this junk and check my instructions. We've drawn a good chunk of this guy. We'll close out of him, close out of our site plan zoom. We're going to submit our drawing file this week, not a PDF. If you want to try a PDF, feel free to try it at home. And that really concludes everything we need to know for this week. And at this time, if you've got any burning questions, go ahead and ask them. Although you could have asked the whole time. It's just a quiet night. That's okay. I mean, I'm okay getting out of here early, 20 minutes. If you're okay getting out of here early, 20 minutes. Just a lot of following through and trying some new tools with the hatch, but it's a lot of common practice with the rest of our tools. Tried to get any math that I could have left off on the PDF in this video. So we should be good to go. And good luck with your homework. Do remember, any mistakes, so if your columns were the wrong size or the wall was in the wrong place, the windows to the right layers, those need to be corrected by the next week as well. And you'll see, you saw kind of with Amanda's, like there's certain things you're going to have to correct as you go. So it's helpful. You'll be really thoughtful about them this week because you'll encounter them. But some things just got left off, and I made note of that in your homework that I've checked. If you hadn't turned it in until tonight, I do plan on grading the rest of this week's files if you get it in tonight, tomorrow before the end of the day, so everyone has a good fresh start and knows their problem areas. Okay, oh yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. No, I was just going to ask, will you have the video up by tomorrow, do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
I could even probably have it up later tonight if we leave now, because it'll have time while I drive home. So,
Okay. Thank
All right.
you.
You're welcome.
Hi, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
This is Kenzie. So on my graded rubric you just handed back, you had said that there was an attachment of the windows that I had missed on there. Is there any way you could send me that attachment?
Yes. Did it didn't get on there? Did it say? Okay, Kenzie. Yes, I can send you the attachment after I get out of this meeting.
Thank you.
I'll just go back in and send it through the grading thing again. So I'll just retype on it and add it there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And can I just have one more quick question too, sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure on my grading thing, since we concluded my sliding doors were right, it was just those 2 windows that I was working off of, right?
Uh-huh. Correct.
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, happy Valentine's Day to you too, Angie. All right. Lillian?
Oh, happy Valentine's. That's all.
Oh, okay. Everyone's excited. I mean, who doesn't want to spend their Valentine's Day online with me, right? I'm going to be celebrating my 5th anniversary with my husband. It's the 22nd of February, so my mom's going to have my babies tomorrow, so I can enjoy Valentine's then.
Have fun.
We will. It'll be nice. All right, guys, I'm going to let you all go. Feel free to send me emails